What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Let's Play World of Warships, and in this video we're going to be taking a look at the St. Louis class cruiser. Today is June 24th, or sorry, rather 25th, which means it's the release of patch 0.4 for the closed beta of World of Warships, bringing in a lot of new changes to the game, all of which I will be looking at later on today. The most important thing to note, however, is that this does not mean that the game is going into open beta. So we still have a little bit of time left before that transition happens and we all get our nice little premium ships. But in the meantime, we'll still be enjoying our closed beta and spanking around noobs in the lower tiers. So my intention was to start off today's video in the port, taking a look at the St. Louis, but well, I'm prevented from doing that because I have a pretty beefy patch to download. So instead, we'll just pull up some historical photos and go from there. From 1900 to 1905, the St. Louis class ship was manufactured. They only made 3 of them: the USS St. Louis, which was the lead ship of her class, the Milwaukee, and the Charleston. They started off as basically an improved Columbia-class cruiser. Decisions were made during the design phase to increase its weight from 6,000 tons to 9,700 tons. Other decisions were made to increase her speed, such as adding smaller guns instead of the original 203mm that it was armed with. What that translates to in-game is a pretty maneuverable, relatively quick, but ridiculously heavily armed ship. This thing has 14 guns, 7 on each side. So if you're going off for a broadside, you'll get 7 guns pointed at the enemy. And for a rank 3 cruiser, that is just I don't have words. It's just devastating. In real life, though, the St. Louis class vessels really didn't have a whole lot of notable achievements to their service records. The C-20, the lead ship of the class, apart from acting as a receiving ship, which, if you don't know, a receiving ship basically houses soldiers in a harbor if there's no other place to store them. She acted as a receiving ship for a period of time. She acted as a submarine tender, and then during World War I, she took over convoy duty as well as embarking some Marines in the Panama Canal Zone. So apart from that, that's really about all the lead ship of the class has on her service record. After the war, she was pressed into service returning troops to Hoboken, New Jersey from France, and she took, I think, 7 round-trip crossings between December of 1918 and July of 1919, and then finally she had to enter the Philadelphia Naval Yard for repairs. USS Milwaukee has an even less glamorous history than the lead ship, the St. Louis. Apart from acting as a submarine tender and a receiving ship, the only thing I can really find on her record is when she tried to assist in salvaging a U.S. submarine which had run aground off of Humboldt Bay. She herself ran aground and was stranded on a set of breakers at Samoa, California. 421 of the enlisted men and 17 officers were rescued by the Humboldt Bay Life-Saving Station with volunteers, but attempts to salvage the ship were ultimately unsuccessful. The submarine, the H-3, was, however, successfully salvaged and returned to service. The Milwaukee, though, however, had to be decommissioned a few months later in March, and a storm the following year in November broke the ship in two. Her name was struck from the registry on June 23, 1919, and her hulk was sold for scrap. The third ship of the class, the USS Charleston, was launched on January 23, 1904, by the Newport News Shipbuilding and Dry Dock Company out of Newport News, Virginia. She was under the command of Captain Cameron McRae Winslow. The Charleston has a little bit more of a storied history than her sister ships. She cruised to South American ports in the summer of 1906 with the Secretary of State. He was on board for just goodwill visits, and after disembarking the official in Panama in September, she returned to the West Coast for overhaul in San Francisco. She began service with the Pacific Squadron. After that, she sailed along the coast to Mexico and as far up as British Columbia on exercises and fleet maneuvers until June of 1908. After that, she prepared for the voyage across the sea to the Asiatic Squadron. During this time, she stopped in Portland, Oregon in June 1907 for the annual Portland Rose Festival. The Charleston was the first U.S. Navy ship to attend the event, and it's a tradition that the Navy continues to participate to this day. Once the Charleston arrived in the Asiatic Fleet, she served as the flagship of the fleet, and every summer they would sail north to Shifu, China, to continue exercises, visiting ports in China, Japan, Manchuria, and Russia to serve as a reminder of American interests in the region. On the very same day that the U.S. entered World War I, the Charleston was given a full commission and was sent to the U.S. Virgin Islands. There she was patrolling for commerce raiders for several months, and then after that she carried Marines north from Haiti up to Philadelphia. Once she reached Philadelphia, she joined the convoy bound for France. The convoy was carrying the first American troops sent overseas to engage in World War I. She did this through submarine-infested waters, mind you. After training naval volunteers and reserves for 2 weeks, once she returned back to the U.S., the Charleston cleared for Havana, Cuba, where she supervised the sailing and towing of several former German ships to New Orleans. And during September and October of 1918, she made 2 convoy escort voyages to Nova Scotia, then joined the cruiser and transport force, which made 5 voyages to France, carrying occupational troops overseas and returning with combat veterans. From there, she was placed in a reduced commission until late 1920, when she arrived in San Diego to serve as an administrative flagship for commander destroyer squadrons of the Pacific Fleet. She served in this duty until June 4th, 1923, when she sailed for Puget Sound Navy Yard for decommissioning, and on December 4th, 1923, she was sold for scrap. She was stripped down to the waterline and sold to the Powell River Company. The ship was towed to Powell River, British Columbia, Canada, to serve as a floating breakwater for a large logging mill. The hulk was ballasted, anchored, and periodically pumped out to keep her afloat. The following year, she was joined by the hull of the cruiser, the Huron, formerly South Dakota. In 1961, heavy weather caused the Charleston to partially flood, and her hull was towed to Kelsey Bay on the north coast of Vancouver Island. The hulk was run ashore to serve as a breakwater, where she can still be seen to this day. And that, guys and gals, sums up my history lesson for the St. Louis. She doesn't have a very storied history, but she did play a role in U.S. naval history, and she plays a hell of a role in World of Warships. As I mentioned earlier, this thing has 14 guns on it, 7 on each side. So when you roll up to even superior vessels like this battleship here, you get 7 guns on this thing. That's just dishing out the hurt with a very, very quick reload time of, I think it's 8 seconds. So once you start getting rounds on target, look at that. You just see the damage just tick up. She's on fire. That battleship has no idea what the hell hit it. As far as maneuverability goes, this thing can handle itself. It has a top speed of, I'm really not sure, somewhere around 20 knots, or 30 knots, I think, maybe. I'm not sure. Somewhere between 20 to 25 knots. Let's go with that. I haven't actually paid attention to how fast this thing can go. I don't really get it going in a straight line very often, because the tactic I found for success is to play this thing more or less like a destroyer. Stick close to your teammates and just pop out from behind islands and just ambush the hell out of the enemy with superior firepower. She's a very fun ship. There's a couple times, I think, during the course of this battle where I almost ran aground and was able to get that rudder turned around at the last second and swing this ship around to avoid crashing into land. So Yeah, overall, the USS St. Louis, probably one of, if not my most favorite ship in the whole game right now. This thing is just a blast. I use it as an elite ship. You know, I'm probably up to rank 5, 6 right now. I use it as an elite ship to train up crews for later placement into higher tier battleships and cruisers. And yeah, not much else left to say about this thing other than she is a real blast to play, and I highly recommend everybody check her out and keep her in your port on your way down the tech trees. So as we finish off this carrier here, that'll just about finish off this battle. Somebody managing to get that kill in out from underneath of me there as my broadside was landing. Not a bad result. 2 kills, 3 Citadel penetrations, some critical damage done, 78 hits done, finishing the battle with almost 37,000 credits, and finishing at top of the team, it looks like, with experience. That's not bad. It's not bad at all, considering we have a Tier 4 Miyogi in there with us. Looks like I sunk a Shikama, I don't know what the hell that thing is, a rank 1 cruiser. Managed to sink one of those, 2 of those. So yeah, those things pretty much had no chance at all against the St. Louis. Did a good bit of damage, 26,000 damage done with armor penetrating hits. That's amazing. Yeah, once you get this thing under the right circumstances, she will perform, and she will perform very well for you. And looks like that Miyogi was the only thing landed 1 hit on me. That was really the only damage I suffered throughout the whole game. So that'll just about sum up today's video. Give it a like down below if you liked it. Comment if you have a comment or a question for me. And as always, guys, I will see you in the next video. Take care.